Love and Deepspace Combat Guide Part 2, Bounty Edition. I'll be going over the best companion and weapon combinations for every encounter, as well as my recommended strategies. As with before, I'm keeping this free-to-play friendly, and I highly recommend you play this game on a PC emulator because you can set your own keybinds, which makes things much easier. Please note there are many different valid strategies for combat. My recommendations are based on what I've found to be most effective from intentionally trying to get away with the most underpowered loadouts I possibly can. Also, if you haven't seen my first guide, please do watch that since I cover the basics of combat and a lot of general tips that would work for these encounters as well. Before getting into the actual bounties, I want to cover off on general strategies and tips that will be applicable to all of them. For weapons, Claymore is the best option for every single one of the bounties because it has the highest damage potential. If you are not comfortable with a melee weapon, firearm is the next best alternative. Biggest learning curve with Claymore is efficiently stacking the gathering buff. But once you master this, Claymore is super easy. In summary, each stack increases the damage of your next basic attack by 12.9%, and you can have a maximum of 3 stacks. At 3 stacks, you can also use your active skill without having to charge it first, and it will also hit twice. That is a huge DPS bonus. Now, there are 2 ways I recommend stacking gathering. If your enemy is attackable, tap your basic attack once, wait until you see the animation and hear the sound cue for precise momentum, then tap your basic attack a second time, wait till you see the animation and sound cue, tap your basic attack a third time, and then you should be at 3 stacks, as indicated on your buff bar. After you're at 3 stacks, you should only be using your charged basic attacks. Your character will do this big slam, and then pause to catch her breath, pose for a picture, I don't know.
Such a poser.
This is basically a very long aftercast where the damage has landed, but there's some extra finishing animation to complete. So use your dodge to cancel this aftercast as soon as you hear the slam or see the numbers pop up. And then you can immediately go into another attack without waiting for your superhero pose to finish. Now, if your enemy is not attackable, such as when you're waiting for Lemonette to hit itself with its own acid, you can stack gathering the exact same way. You don't actually need to hit a target to get the buff. But you can also fast stack gathering by what I'm going to call flicking because I can't find a better way to describe it. It's a little hard to explain, especially since the timing can be a little tricky, but basically you want to tap your basic attack, interrupt it with your dodge, pause, tap your basic attack again, interrupt it with your dodge, pause, tap your basic attack again, and interrupt it with a dodge, pause. If you did it correctly, you should have successfully stacked 3 stacks of gathering. This will take some practice to get down the exact timing and to get really used to doing it quickly, so it is definitely not necessary. All of the bounties are completely doable without this. For your skill rotation, they will also be more or less about the same for all encounters. Once the shield is down, your DPS window only lasts for 10 seconds. So if using Claymore, this is enough time to use your resonance skill, 3 charged basic attacks, with dodging to cancel the aftercast for each one, plus 1 active skill in that order. The reason why you want to use your active skill last is because it will consume all your gathering stacks, so you want to make sure you have the damage buff on for your basic attacks. For companions, it's almost always going to be Xavier Deepspace Hunter if using Claymore, Xavier Evil Police if using Firearm, Zane Medic of the Arctic, and Raphael Fresh Paint. To explain a little more about Xavier, I know a lot of people crap on his DPS, but the thing is, Xavier Police has more synergy with fast-hitting weapons because of his light amplification skill. By using basic attacks, you can stack an effect called Transmitted Light. Once you've reached 6 stacks, Xavier will immobilize enemies for 4 seconds, causing them to take 20% more damage for that duration. So great synergy with Firearm, but Claymore is a slower hitting weapon, so you're not able to stack Transmitted Light as quickly, nor hit that many times during the 4 seconds of Immobilize to really capitalize on the 20% damage buff. The Immobilize can also be a hindrance rather than a help when you're intentionally trying to move an enemy into a certain location. Xavier Deepspace Hunter's passive skill increases both of your crit rates by 7% and is a persistent buff throughout the entire fight. Crit rates are by nature more volatile because it only helps when you manage to crit, but when you do crit, it is a sizable payoff. So if you're not getting anywhere with Xavier Evil Police, try Xavier Deepspace Hunter. Both are good options. You may also be wondering why not take Zane Dawnbreaker because he's the DPS-oriented one out of all his free-to-play options. The issue is his resonance skill is on a 20-second cooldown instead of the usual 15 for everyone else. Personally, I found the shorter resonance skill option to be more effective and reliable in terms of overall DPS. Last call out for companions is sometimes they can body block your attacks and vice versa. You can body block their attacks too. It's most volatile after using your resonance skill because it ports you both a few feet away from the enemy. So what I like to do is use my companion support skill right after because it ports him closer to the wanderer. This way I can see which side he goes to so I can better position myself. So what are bounties? Bounties include 5 repeatable encounters organized by the Hunters Association that rewards gold, bottles of wishes, and ascension crystals that can be used to upgrade your loadout. Each encounter only contains one enemy that you have to eliminate before time runs out, and each also has their own special mechanics. I'm actually going to start with Lemonette because I received some comments noting some difficulties specifically with this wanderer. The challenge is it's only attackable during a very limited window. So the strategy here is to maximize your burst and be intentional about your positioning to reduce the downtime between burst phases. Lemonette is protected by a shield for most of the fight, which nullifies all damage until you can take it down. During its shielded phase, it can use one of 2 attacks. First is its acid spit, which it shoots out in a cone-shaped point-blank AoE. If you get hit, you will take damage, but it is very well telegraphed so you can easily dodge or simply run out. If this acid hits a lime, it will break Lemonette's shield and all citruses on the field will disappear. Second is an acid spray, which is very easy to avoid by simply running to the side or dodging. This attack is more of a stall skill from Lemonette, and you can force it to skip this move by ensuring both you and Lemonette are always next to where a lime is going to be. There are also yellow lemons that will explode if you get too close, but these are also easily avoidable by staying far away or dodging out before they burst. Back to the limes, there will only be 3 limes on the field at any given time, and they spawn in very specific locations in an alternating pattern. Using a clock for reference, the first spawn phase drops 1 lime at the 12 o'clock position in the north, a second in the southeast, and a third in the southwest, like a peace sign. The second spawn phase will vertically flip the locations. So 1 lime spawns at 6 o'clock by the entrance in the south, another in the northeast, and a third in the northwest. Ideally, you want to lead or knock Lemonette to where the limes are going to spawn next. If you don't, Lemonette will waste time by throwing its drink on the ground or using its spit attack. So putting all of this into practice, when the encounter begins, I prefer to stack 3 stacks of gathering as I'm running up to the arena. You can also do this after you've reached Lemonette if you're fast enough, but I personally find doing it before I reach the starter marker to be more consistent. Again, this will definitely take some practice to get down the timing, and it is optional. Don't feel pressure to do this. You can always stack gathering the normal way once you reach Lemonette. One additional thing to note about stacking gathering, most players spam their dodge key to run up to the enemy faster, but if you spam your dodge without pausing, you'll see that you don't actually proc this orange circle animation, which is the visual indicator for precise momentum. Attacking while under precise momentum is what grants the stack of gathering. If you pause like half a second between each dodge, you will proc precise momentum. So again, what I like to do is tap my basic attack, dodge, pause, tap my basic attack, dodge, pause, then tap my basic attack while dodging a 3rd time, and this will get me to 3 stacks, just as I reach the starter marker. Then I spam my dodge key past Lemonette to the 12 o'clock position where I know the lime is going to spawn. If you did this fast enough, his acid spit is going to land on the lime right when it spawns, breaking its shield. As soon as I see shield break come up, I hit my resonance skill, pop my companion support skill, then I do a charged basic attack, dodge to cancel the aftercast, do this 3 times, and then end with my active skill. As mentioned before, your attacks with Claymore can knock Lemonette out of Xavier's attacks as well, and vice versa. You can body block each other too. So you do need to be a little careful about positioning, potentially sandwiching Lemonette in between the 2 of you so your knockbacks cancel each other out. For your protocors, I don't want you to go out of your way to specifically build for just this fight, but if you need a little more and you have nothing else to level up, prioritize slotting protocors with stats that specifically include damage to weakened, because you can only attack Lemonette when he's weakened. You don't need any defensive or HP stats. Next is Mr. Beanie. One thing to know about Mr. Beanie is he doesn't have any stalactrum requirements. This This has the benefit of allowing you the freedom to choose your highest leveled memories/companion since you're not locked into certain Stalactrum colors. But it also means you do have to use your resonance skill twice to break its shield, as each instance will only remove one core instead of two. It has a few basic attack animations as well. First, it'll spin around and punch out its arm to throw out one gold coin, which does damage. If it winds its right arm first, then spins around, it'll shoot out 3 gold coins in a point-blank AoE cone. If you're very close to it, you can get hit by all 3 coins. And lastly, it has a golden coin shower attack where an expanding red circle will first appear, then he'll jump into the air and hop around on its crown. Because it's in the air, your attacks won't land. Avoid going back into the area so you don't get hit by the falling coins for the duration of the AoE. All of these are generally easily avoidable with a dodge or a sidestep, especially if you're using firearm. The coin shower attack can also be interrupted by your resonance skill, which can give you a few extra seconds of DPS. Its special mechanic summons 3 present boxes that will drop down, and these will do damage to you on impact if you don't dodge or stay out of the way. He will first turn his back on you, sprouting some small gold coins, and then twirl around to summon the gift boxes. He will also use this voice line, "That's for you, you're welcome," as the boxes are falling. Mr. Beanie summons the presents on top of your location, so if you stay in melee range of it at all times, you don't need to go out of your way to target the presents because your skills do AoE damage. If you're using a firearm, your regular basic attack is single target, so you can use your charged basic attack here for some AoE if you need it. If you destroy the presents, you'll get a random boost to HP, defense, or attack for about 5 seconds. So putting all this into practice, once you've loaded into the fight, use your dodges to get to the field a bit quicker. And as soon as you pass the starting marker, pop your resonance skill to take down the first shield core layer. Then use your companion support skill. If you didn't already do this when you were running to the starter marker, here's where you would stack your 3 stacks of gathering. Then I'll spam my charged basic attack and be sure to dodge to cancel the long resting animation in between each slam. Then I'm going to use my resonance skill again when it's off cooldown, breaking the second and final layer of the Protocore shield. Now we are in the burst phase where the enemy is weak, so here I'm going to use my 3 charged basic attacks, again dodging to cancel the aftercast, follow that with my active skill right before the weakness window ends. Your Ardent Oath won't be up for this first burst phase, but use it in the next one. Also use your Hunter support skill during this period. Repeat this pattern until Mr. Beanie is defeated. Next is Heartbreaker, a wanderer who was first spotted next to a garbage can. Isn't that sad? It's actually very sad. Is it because someone threw away its love letter? Similar to Mr. Beanie, Heartbreaker does not have Stalactrum requirements, so you can use your highest leveled companion. But unlike Mr. Beanie, it does not have any Protocore shields, so it doesn't have the same weakness phase. A little more on this later. But first, its basic attacks. It will swipe at you with its love letter and then do an overhead slam. This has a pretty small melee range, so you have to be pretty close to it to get hit. It also has an attack where a red laser line appears, that's your indicator to dodge. It will whirl around and fire off a single heart. Another unique thing about Heartbreaker is you will take consistent damage over time for the entire duration of the fight. Its special mechanic is love letters. Heartbreaker will summon single love letters that spawn at the edge of the arena and float towards it in the center. You need to collect these so that you can be healed. There will be a red arrow indicator to show you in which direction the love letter has spawned. Unless I'm dying and really need heals, I like to dodge in that direction until the red indicator disappears, because this shows I am directly in the letter's path. Then I just keep attacking here until the letter floats to me. This saves me time from running out to get the letter and then running back in. I can just keep doing my DPS without major downtime. If you're really struggling to stay alive, you can also use Wand because the active skill Magnetic Nexus will restore your HP while you're attacking. Zane, Medic of the Arctic, will also recover 0.4% of your HP every second. Heartbreaker's big skill can happen when it ports back to the center of the arena and summons 5 love letters at the same time. I believe this can only happen a maximum of 2 times in a fight. Here, you have to collect all of the love letters before they reach Heartbreaker. If not, it will do a massive attack, which you can dodge. I personally like to keep attacking Heartbreaker until the letters are about halfway to the center. There's just less distance for me to have to run to get them that way. Also, if your companion happens to be in the path of a love letter, he can collect it for you. If you can get all 5 letters in time, Heartbreaker will be knocked on its back, and this is its weakness phase. Follow the same order of skills I discussed previously and show it no mercy. Just kidding. But also not. Next is Pumpkin Magus. This Wanderer has blue and red selection requirements, so you should be using Zane, Medic of the Arctic, as your companion for this encounter. Its basic attacks include hopping up into the air and slamming down with its 2 wands. It'll flash its attack indicator, meaning you should dodge, hop in the air and shoot out fire breath. It can also dash forward and swipe at you. Sometimes it'll also float up into the air, twirl its arms, and throw its wands at you. Its special mechanic is hat bombs. Pumpkin Magus can summon up to 4 giant top hats that will spawn in random locations. These hats don't all drop in at the same time. There's an interval of a couple seconds between each, so you can interrupt Pumpkin Magus here using your resonance skill so he doesn't summon them all. You also have about 5 seconds to destroy the hats from the time they spawn in. If you don't destroy them, they will explode into massive fire fields that will do damage over time if you stand in them. Personally, I don't like to waste time destroying the hats beyond what I can take out with splash AoE damage. Instead, it's better to work on interrupting his summoning skill, so even if there's 1 or 2 hats that explode, you still have a lot of space in the arena that's free of fire. And even if you end up having to stand on a fire field, you can knock Pumpkin Magus backwards out of it into a clear area. You'll take some damage, but Claymore can accomplish this quite quickly. Additionally, Pumpkin Magus doesn't use this special skill very often, so you shouldn't find yourself in a situation where the entire field is covered. Last but not least is Snoozer. This Wanderer has purple and pink stalactrum requirements, so you should be using Raphael Fresh Paint for this encounter. Its basic attacks include an expanding AoE, this twirl where he spins in a straight path in front of it, as well as a belly flop move where he jumps up and slams his body down in a point-blank AoE cone. Its special mechanic is to summon bubbles that reduces the damage it takes. Snoozer will float up into the air by its nose, back towards the center of the arena and say, "So tired," as it's summoning 10 bubbles into the arena. Each bubble reduces the damage it takes by 5%, and popping each bubble also damages Snoozer, so you do want to take these out. The easiest way to do so is with your Ardent Oath. This should clear out all of the bubbles on the field, all at once. From my experience, Snoozer typically summons his bubbles around the 1-minute mark on the timer, give or take plus or minus 15 seconds. So your Ardent Oath should be up or close to being up by the time it happens. If it's not, take a look at your protocores and look for stats that include Oath recovery because it will help it recharge a bit faster. If Snoozer summons his bubbles early or your Ardent Oath isn't even close to being ready, you will need to pop the bubbles manually. If you don't pop them all in time, Snoozer will do a massive AoE attack that is dodgeable. Now you can skip this entire mechanic if you are using Claymore, and if you have about at least 13 to 14% expedited energy boost to speed up the recharge for your stars. This allows you to essentially chain interrupt Snoozer so that it can't use any skills. You use your resonance skill to break its shield, and as soon as it's back up again, use your resonance skill to break it once more. Rinse and repeat, and its shield is pretty much down the entire fight. If going with this strategy, I don't use my active skill at all and just keep my 3 gathering stacks at all times. In my opinion, it's more straightforward this way, so I don't have to worry about not having enough stars for my resonance skill nor stacking gathering, because the goal is to keep Snoozer in its weakened state 99% of the time. You can do this with Firearm as well, but it's slightly less reliable compared to Claymore, and I think it's because Claymore can buy you an extra second or 2 from the knockbacks on its basic attacks. This method is viable if you just don't want to deal with the mechanic. However, you do more damage to Snoozer by doing the bubble phase. So here's the strategy I actually recommend. Keep using your resonance skill to keep Snoozer in its weakened state. Do not use your active skill here so you can reliably always have 2 star charges available. Keep doing this up until your Ardent Oath is ready or just about ready, and then just do your basic attacks. Snoozer will then float towards the middle of the arena and summon his bubbles. Now, use your resonance skill to break his shield, and then use your Ardent Oath skill. Remember, your Ardent Oath can clear all the bubbles on the field, and each bubble popped hurts Snoozer too, so you get a big damage payoff from this. And then you can finish the fight normally. Last note for Snoozer, similar to Lemonette, protocores with the bonus damage to weaken stat is going to be very beneficial. And that wraps up my bounty guide. I hope this was helpful. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. Also, let me know which encounter you found the most challenging. I know Lemonette has been tough for a lot of players, but I actually found Snoozer the most annoying until I figured out how to use my interrupts more intentionally. Additionally, please kindly consider subscribing or giving this video a like. The engagement really does help my channel as a small creator and encourages YouTube to show this video to more of our fellow Love and Deepspace players. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next one. How do we feel about the Hunter uniform? It's low-key giving Reno from Final Fantasy VII, at least on me because of the red hair, but also because technically I'm wearing the uniform, but I'm not wearing it correctly. Good thing I'm an adult now and can do whatever the hell I want.